to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, Sara Hillery joins me on the show. Sara's firm, Sara Hillery Interior Design, provides an entire range of services from conception to renderings to project management and execution. After graduating from the University of Virginia in 2004, Sara went on to earn her MFA in Interior Environments and an ASID certification at Virginia Commonwealth University. After beginning her career with a design group in Richmond, Virginia, Sara relocated to Houston, where she became a project designer at Lucas Eilers Design Associates. While at Lucas Eilers, Sara's project received numerous local awards and accolades, including Best in Show, Best Vacation Home, Best Residential Green Design, and was featured in numerous publications. Then back to Richmond, Virginia in 2011, Sara opened her own firm. Since then, her work has been featured in Our Home, New Orleans Home and Lifestyles, and Boomer Magazine. Sara Hillery Interior Design has completed projects in Louisiana, New York, Texas, and Virginia. Today, Sara and I are going to talk about her opinions and tips for client retention. She has some sound advice that I'm sure you'll be able to apply to your business too. One of the keys of client retention is exceptional customer service, which is exactly what you will get if you open a trade account with My Doma Studio. My Doma Studio, you know, is the place for you to manage all of your projects. Time tracking, communication, product approvals, all the tools you need to be efficient. And you know what happens when you are efficient, you are more profitable. And as I said, My Doma Studio is known for their attention to detail and for their customer service. And speaking of My Doma Studio, I have a special announcement for you. Have you heard of the one-day intensive seminar presented by My Doma? It's called 19H The Blueprint. Yours truly, LuAnn, will open the day and then 3 working sessions on how to run your projects so that your clients love working with you and you love what you do. This is a working, teaching, doing day with templates, worksheets, the works. Here's the news. The early bird closed last week, but my podcast listeners can register at early bird prices all the way up to the day of the event, which is July 15th, 2020. That's right. A full day of learning. Go to mydomastudio.com/19LuAnn. That's mydomastudio.com/19LuAnn to get signed up. All right? Now, let's hear what Sara has to teach us about client retention. Hi, Sara. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thanks, LuAnn. I'm excited to be here.
So, Sara, you are a listener of the show, and you know that every show has sort of an idea. We like to have a little jumping off point, and then God knows I go anywhere I want once I get something I didn't know about you, right?
Right.
But we have talked, you have a nice firm on your hands and you do a nice amount of gross revenue, and you've got a 4-person firm, soon to be a 5-person firm. But one of the things that we have figured out that you are particularly good at personally is client retention. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we're not right now going to delve into a topical topic, what we're dealing with in our country right now. But it is always important. And of course, it's going to be very important as we navigate through this new economic world that we find ourselves in the U.S. and abroad right now. So client retention. We know why it's important, but we need to identify really what are some of the things that go into it and how we execute some of these concepts without feeling icky, right? It's like that's right. What I think it kind of comes down to. We feel very marketing-ish to people that are our current clients. So tell us some of your philosophies, your ideas on it, and how you've handled it in your firm, Sara.
Sure. Well, because I take my business very seriously, it's almost like a child to me. And so my clients aren't just clients, they're a part of my life. And so I treat them as friends. So every new person that I meet in this process, whether they become a client or not, I'm genuinely interested in. I want to know what makes them tick, because eventually if that turns into one of my clients, it's how I'm going to make their space function the best for them. So I ask personal questions. I ask, how many kids they have, how old they are, when are their birthdays, what makes them special, what are their hobbies. So you really, from the get-go in my new client questionnaire, I start asking the things that, take the shell of their home and really give it personality. And from that, it allows you over the process of once they become clients to, when you're at a meeting, it's not just strictly business. You get to, see how the family's doing or what that person's been up to or where they might have traveled, and use that information to incorporate into the design. And then furthermore, after the projects are over, that person, it's not just goodbye and have a nice life. That person is now kind of woven into the fabric of your own life, and it allows you to reach out and check up on them. I genuinely have these moments where I'm like, man, I haven't talked to so-and-so for a while. I wonder how they're doing. I need to call them. So there doesn't have to be a reason necessarily, but when they're your friends, they're on, it sort of develops just instinctively for your business that the next time they have a project, they might call you or they might refer you. And it's just a good practice. Okay.
So what I like about it is I feel like, of course, we've had many conversations about having the, the questionnaire and so forth like that. My question is you said whether they're your client yet or not, are you doing the initial questionnaire on a discovery call? And do you have that discovery call, or does someone on your team have it? Or is it after you have signed the project and now you're like, okay, now I really want to learn more about you, your family, your lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. Where does it come, chicken or the egg?
As soon as I get an inquiry, they get a call that says, tell me about your what you're looking to do. Let me send you our new client questionnaire so that we can talk a little more in depth and make sure I have all the information. And that's where they start getting those questions about children and birthdays and entertaining and lifestyle. So I get that information up front because you can gain so much from that. Plus, it's a great, when you're really doing that true discovery call, to have that information in your hand. It can lead you to questions that might better inform what they're looking for, because some clients just think, oh, I have this, I'm building and I don't really know what I want, but I know it needs to look good kind of attitude. But that's not very helpful. So it gives you a jumping off point to sort of dig into, well, tell me how you use your space, and how do you envision your new home? Why are you changing from what you have to, what you're building, or maybe it's the same house. Why are we changing it? And how does that affect who's living in the house and the activities they do and the things that you're anticipating will come in 5 years?
Okay. So do you ever have somebody that doesn't understand why you're asking the questions. And they're like, I just am interested in having a call to see if I want you to have a designer. Why do you need to know my kids' birthdays?
I actually explain that up front. I simply just say there's no such thing as too much information. The more I know, the better your space can be. So that usually takes care of it. I had one client who took it one step further, and she was hilarious and wrote something about, wanting a unicorn fountain in the backyard. She was very playful. And I was like, this lady is fabulous. It just, you get a little bit of personality in those answers that you don't always anticipate, but it just comes through, and it gives you a baseline to start from.
Right. Okay. So the thing is that when you are doing this, how many questions are in your questionnaire?
Unfortunately, it's like 3 pages long. It's pretty long.
Wow. Okay. And from a technical standpoint, is it delivered to them electronically and they can answer it electronically, or do they have, it is?
It is. We've tried doing like an online version, but we feel like being able to, and we just have it in a Word document so that they can edit it and space it depending on how long their answer is, and they're not having to write in margins.
Oh, okay. So it's not set up like a fillable thing. It's literally a Word document, and you email that to them, and okay. And is this process for your firm automated, Sara, or when somebody comes in and they say they come in and they're interested, whether they come through the telephone or through online, does somebody in your office now send them an email, or is it automated?
It's usually myself. I usually will call them if they haven't called the office first and talk to them and say, I'm going to send you our new client questionnaire. And I explain that, it's just to get information, and that we will, once I get it, we'll have another call. We'll go through the answers and set up a meeting for the sort of initial client meeting, I would say, whether it's an existing space or to look at plans.
Okay. Well, and I realize as I asked the question, I should say, as you answered the question, I realize, of course, you have to have the call first, because if they're not a fit for the type of projects that you do, you're not sending them the questionnaire, right?
Right. And yes, you want to sort of discern who your client is up front, and you want to be honest with them. The worst thing is to mislead someone and they have them get so excited and realize that, this is never going to work out. So right. You want to I think being honest and upfront is the best policy.
Right. Because just so there's context here, not that you are any stranger from a point in your career where you might have had to do a room or, parts of a room. At this point in your career, you do have a minimum spend, and you are taking bigger projects on. So you're not necessarily. Okay. So, all righty. So we do this questionnaire, and Is this like, this does the heavy lifting, but I can't believe this is the only thing that's happening throughout the process. So we have this questionnaire. You know what was interesting about the questions? I like that you asked what's special about your kids, right? What's special about each one of them? What kinds of answers do you get there?
I usually get what's their hobbies, the sports that they play, or one might be artistic. Or musically inclined. So I don't always, get the all flowers. Sometimes it's just usually it's just the facts of, like, Bobby Sue plays, baseball and softball, but that's where it starts. And then you say, oh, what do they like about that? Are they team oriented, or do they like to have people over? And that starts informing the design and space in a way itself too. Okay. So we're using this information for two levels of information. One is actually the technical design. So if we've got 3 boys that are all into sports, that's maybe a different family room than, 3 boys that are all musicians or something like that, exactly. Right?
Okay. All right. Makes sense. But then we're also, cataloging this information. And so what happens now? So are there other specific touch points or things that you include in your process of working with a client? Or is it literally this document does the heavy lifting and you are always just continuing to learn more and more from the top level of my kid's into sports all the way to 3 months later and he's the pitcher and he's an all-state pitcher and he's got a tournament coming up? Like how are you utilizing this information and what other types of things are you doing as we go through the process?
So I would say it does the heavy lifting on the front end, and we're constantly going back to that to make sure that once they do become a client, we are remembering all the parts and pieces that are important to the client. But I will tell you what usually goes on an initial client answer sheet changes once they get to know you. You know, they're a little more free with their information as the process starts and the questions get better and more detailed. So it's I think it's more of a jumping off point, but it's something that we reference and document. The rest of the conversation tends to happen more organically in meetings.
Okay. And then as you go through the design process and then the execution and everything with a client, what are the kinds of things that you're doing? Do you have set protocols for communication and status updates and things like that that also, go into that, ultimately a client feeling comfortable to come back again for another service or to refer you to their friend?
Just to make sure I understand what you're asking, you, in terms of the project itself, do we have set protocols in terms of checking up with them?
Yeah,
absolutely. We have a lot of paperwork on the front end. I mean, I think any good firm who's had some experiences along the way of what to do and what not to do, sort of you build this repertoire of things to make sure all expectations are met from both sides. So we really have we have a timeline that we sort of throw out with what to expect, and we set up from the beginning. We try to set up a schedule for meetings so that a client knows, okay, if I haven't heard from this person, and I know I'll see them, next Tuesday at the client meeting, and we can ask all those things, or we make it pretty obvious that they can pick up the phone and call us if they have a question that needs to be answered before the meeting. But I think
I like that.
I think expectations in setting them up front is the best policy, quite honestly.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the thing about it is that we've had many designers across, all of these episodes, mention, there is that part in the middle of the project where the client is writing lots of checks and not seeing a lot of things happening, right?
Right.
And that is so famously that part of the project where everybody's like, you're going to hate everything at this part, but it's going to be good soon, right?
Right.
The thing about it is that part is obvious, right? And I think we have identified that so many times on the show that even designers that didn't have that as part of their process, I've learned as I've traveled the country and met all of you guys that it's like, I do that now. But I think that we can't forget that that's important throughout the whole thing, even the beginning when there is a lot of contact. And like you just said, what made me think of it is you just said, you know what, they know that I'm going to meet with them next Tuesday. So if they have a question on Thursday, if we don't catch each other, they already know the schedule of meetings. You see, and I think that's so important, especially as a consumer and not an interior designer, because it's just that. It's even in the beginning when there is a lot of contact and there's a lot of decisions, I'm busy too. And if I'm sitting here thinking, oh my goodness, I forgot to tell her this, I forgot to tell her that. If I can just say, you know what, LuAnn, you're going to see her Tuesday. Don't worry about it. That's a good thing for my life.
It is. And I'll tell you, even once the orders have all been placed in, it's kind of the waiting game in terms of things and not necessarily construction. If it's kind of quiet, I'll send the client a note and say, hey, by the way, we just got a note that these shipped. Yay. And because it's for them, it's exciting. It's a reminder that we're still working and that things are arriving, even though they can't see them. There's a little bit of joy that comes from, I'm so excited. My things are coming.
Right. And do you do that by email, a note like that? Or is that?
I've done multiple ways. Depends on where I am. And I'm going to call myself a multitasker. I don't know if that truly exists, but I like to think I am. So sometimes it's a quick text. Sometimes it's through phone call of, hey, how are you? Just wanted to let you know these came in. And sometimes it's email, that I am probably too tied to technology. So sometimes I might be like late at night that I think of it and I'm like, you know what? I just need to let them know this is here.
Okay. So that's interesting. So when you mentioned that how important it is to set the client expectations and, up at the beginning of the project, I was about to ask you, do you have, very often I've learned that designers have that, let's call it a how we work document, right? So it's not right. And a lot of times in that is what communication is acceptable and not acceptable. And now you're just describing how you'll reach out to them in any which way that works for you at that moment. So do you have a how we work document and what kinds of things are on it?
We do. We have a document called What to Expect, and then the general rules of thumb in terms of layman's law. Not everything's going to go perfect.
Right.
But on what we call our new client questionnaire, we do ask, how do you prefer to be contacted? And that information is what we get up front, because we don't ever want to break some barrier that's uncomfortable for them. So each client is different. In terms of reaching out to me, I'm pretty honest to say, I have 3 small children and I can't always get to you after work hours immediately, but I'll do my best. And if it's not till the next morning, please don't think I'm ignoring you.
Right. And so you have a point where in your business that you're not laying down the law on communication. You're not saying only this, not that. Right. Okay. And that works for you. And also, I think maybe there is, first of all, how many projects do you typically have going on in a year, Sara?
Maybe 10 to 15.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that makes a difference, right? Because 10 to 15 is a lot of people, but it's not 40 where I've got 10 people at a time, right?
Right.
And so that makes a difference. And then also, too, I think there's a level of confidence that comes when, if you've said to someone in a nice way, and I can hear it, hey, I've got 3 kids. If you call me or text me at 7:30, I might be in the middle of bath time, and maybe when I'm done, I'll answer, and maybe I won't, but I'll get to you the next day. It's when you do see the phone call at 7:30 in the middle of bath time, I don't get the impression that you're twisting in the rope on it. You're just like, okay, I can't do it now. I'll do it tomorrow.
Right. I will look at it. I don't ignore that text, because I figure if you're emailing or truly texting, I think texting is the more immediate form of communication other than a phone call. But if you're calling me at 7:30, then something is on your mind. And so I'll read it and I'll take a look at it. And if it looks like something where a client might be freaking out about something, then that's something for me to consider. And I'll weigh in, I'll say, okay, is this something I need to get back to them on immediately? And if so, I'll, send a quick message and say, hey, I'm, doing my, bedtime routine. I'll call you back once they're down. Just so that, again, so they know I got it and I'm not ignoring it.
Right.
But if it's something minor, that says, I didn't want to forget to mention this, then okay, great, I got that, and we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Right. But there's that level of either way, you are still making your evaluation on whether it gets handled or not. Just because they might have intruded into your world, you're still deciding, do I need to, is this beneficial for both of us that I really do this now, or this really can wait, where you're not solving world peace right now.
Right. I mean, this goes back to me not necessarily just treating them as business relationships, but as friends. Your friends will text you at different hours, and you say you too have to evaluate. Okay, what's the value in this? Is this an immediate response required, or is this just a reaching out to say hello? how are you?
Okay. So what other kinds of things are in that what to expect doc that maybe, and from this standpoint, Sara, maybe something that take yourself back, to earlier in business, some of the things that you put in because you were like, okay, not having that happen again. I realize that it makes it easier if I talk about this up front than wait till we're in the middle of it during the project.
Sure. Well, in our what to expect document, we've got we have this multi-page process that sort of gives you a visual aid on what the process is like and all the steps within each. And so you can see it puts together a timeline for the project. And then we have a more detailed document that within each phase of the document explains what we're working on and the various stages within that document, within that phase of the timeline. And then we also have one called that, is kind of like Murphy's Law. So it basically says, product might have a deadline of X given originally, but something may happen at the factory and it could be 3 weeks later, and you understand that I physically am not making it, and so I'm at the mercy of my relationships with that vendor and what they might have going on. So there's fabric flaws that can happen. We order CFAs every time we order fabric to make sure that the colors match, and every once in a while that color doesn't match, and in order to get the right match, we might have to reselect, or we have to decide, okay, the color's a little off, but is it worth reselecting? That's a choice that we make together. There's so many things in this document. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And this document is born out of, okay, that just happened, let me add it to the document. Or did you work with a colleague or a business coach to come up with the document? How did you arrive? When you say it's that robust, how did you arrive at that completed document?
After being in business for a while, we realized there was nothing that really was, that we didn't we were doing a lot of it verbally at first, and we now make clients sign that they understand that these things happen, and they're not always our fault. It's just the industry. We all work as a team, but sometimes things are beyond our control, and so it's part of our agreement now that they have to sign it. But it's from years of experience, and I think just trying to reverse role. If I was the client, I want to know those things up front. I don't want to not be told at the beginning and then get through to the end and something's not going to work, or or think that just because the dye lot might be slightly off, it's going to ruin my whole design. I think by treating that up front, you can calmly say, but we're prepared for this. It's been, we've been through it in the past. It might require a few calls or changes, but it usually always works out for the better.
Well, the magic in it is that it not only obviously puts a client in a position where they've heard it once when they weren't emotional. Oh, sometimes fabric is flawed. Oh, okay, sometimes vendors change their schedules and their timelines, and they don't exactly ask our permission for that, right? So it gives the client that one time at least hearing it when they're not emotionally attached to it happening to them. But then it also gives them that when they are hearing it in that emotionally attached time, when it is attached to them, it's when you say, we talked about this was part of the process, it immediately goes, oh, right, she's been through this before. This isn't a surprise. When a fabric is flawed and the dye lot is no longer available, this isn't her first rodeo. I remember she told me that this kind of thing could happen. And you see, because it's the unknown, right? It's so funny because I recently had a conversation on the podcast with Sarah Brennan, and she had written a blog post for my website, for LuAnnNigara.com, about Candy Scott, a previous guest, also saying how it's the fear. And a lot of times we're all functioning out of fear, and that's what creates the drama. And so when a client is like saying, you have to present a client that, okay, it's one thing if a fabric dye lot is off, right? But what if it's the entire countertops and island for, the piece of stone that you ordered, right? I mean, that's
Right.
that's a huge thing. So it's not only is the backsplash going to match now? Are the cabinets going to match now? Is the floor going to match now? These are all not like, hey, we'll just put a different trim on it and it'll be fine. And so for the client to understand when they're in fear of their result being compromised, to know that this didn't surprise you. This might have actually surprised you, but it didn't surprise you, rock you. You've been there, done that. Remember, I told you back in the What to Expect document that this kind of thing happens and we have a protocol for it, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, because it's when you don't have that experience, and even if you have had it happen to you, but you don't put it in this preparation document, then you're almost, no, I've been here before. Well, I don't know. Have you been here before? Because this seems pretty crazy. No, I know what to do. You might still calm them down, and you will still calm them down, and you still will get through it. But there's that difference, that speed bump there that just goes, whoa, check it at the door. I'm in charge here. I got this, right?
That's right. And we also, it also allows us to say, we could go back and show you what, once you get some experience under your belt, you can even show them, photograph the things that have, been published and say, do you know, in this thing that one piece was not the original selection,
Right.
And it's not that it happens all the time. Truly, it is not a norm, but it does happen occasionally. So just by covering yourself and meeting their expectations and letting them know that we're not all perfect and we're all human and mistakes can happen, whether it's ours or our vendors, it's going to be okay and it's still going to be beautiful in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. So, all right. So now let's talk about, Sara, when we have been through that middle scary part and all the beautiful things have started to come in and been installed, and maybe you're getting ready for the design to completion, all of the reveal and all the pretty things go in. What kinds of things have worked for you really well in your process that are some more of these anchors that endear your clients to your process and to your firm that really contribute to this client retention that you enjoy?
Well, there's a couple things depending on every client's circumstance. Timelines can be more of a rushed experience or a very relaxed one. Our first choice and preference typically is to try and emulate that, Christmas morning type feel for our clients. So we really try to encourage them either to go away if it's a new house or not come to their new house while we're installing and give us, a couple days to get everything hung, and we get the sound going if there's a sound system, and the lights just right so that when they come in and everything looks beautiful, some of these projects that take years, there's so much money sunk in and so much emotional angst, I think, on both sides. We're so excited, and they're so excited to see what they've been buying for all this time that, anything you can do to just elevate, that experience for them, I think is worth it. So we really encourage from the get-go. Some clients just want to be there. They are maybe more involved type clients who just have to have their hands in everything. But for the most part, clients come to us who don't want to have their hands in everything.
I'm busy. You design. I'll work.
Right. So being able to mock it up and do, set the table with flowers and just create a feeling where they're walking into their new home, because it is a new home for them, and it isn't always everything that they have had in the past, because there's usually new pieces involved. And they've been on the job site meetings where the construction's happened and they've seen the messy part, and to see it all clean and ready to move-in is really a treat. So we go so far as sometimes we'll get organizers and we'll put clothing away for them and have it organized for them. So they literally just lock and key, walk
Wow.
in.
Okay. And so that is, obviously easier to accomplish when you are working with a client who's building a home.
Right.
So when you're working with a client that's living in their renovation, maybe they're doing an addition or they're doing a gut reno but they're staying in place. Is it's more challenging, but you still, keep everything at the warehouse and you still ask them, maybe just go to your friend or a hotel or a family member for 2 or 3 nights. Let me wow you.
We do. And we have a project right now that we're supposed to install, and they've been living in the home, and the construction is done. We're waiting on one last sofa to come in. And they have their old things. And what we've set up is so that the day before, all of their old furniture is going to get picked up that they're not keeping. And then the day of, we have the drapery folks coming. Now the wallpaper is already on the wall, but the drapery folks are coming, the rug people, the furniture delivery, the art hangers, and it's a bustling, everybody's there. There's a lot of activity. It's fully exhausting, but it's so exciting.
Right. And so, and they're on board. And do you talk about that in the beginning of the process? Yeah, I can't recall who, but there was one designer in all these times that she said, it's in my contract. You will leave when I do the reveal. You will get out of Dodge, and if you're not going to do this, we're probably not going to be a good fit. Right.
Right. Well, we don't go that far, but I strongly encourage them, and I plant the seed early because, some clients, if they're in their home, are like, I don't care. I have to have something if they don't have existing furniture.
Right. That's true.
And so, you're doing this for your client. It's not just for you, and I try to encourage them, by saying, this is about creating an emotion for you to experience. It's up to you if you want the little trickle effect or if you want the big reveal. I said, but it is really so much more amazing to see it all come together versus having, one piece and not having the pieces that connect it to the rest of the space.
Well, I love that. That's a great. What I love is when there's a line that we can repeat that really visually, emotionally attaches to what we're trying to express, whether it's from a practical or a business standpoint. But right there, do you want, you can have the trickle effect. You can, and I get it. But in my experience, this reveal is once in a lifetime. You're doing this project for the one time, right? Like it's like That's you can really build it up and say, but to see that, do you want the trickle effect is so visual. Like I totally I don't want the trickle effect. I want the whole thing.
A whole lot less exciting.
And that's cool. And because we've had designers on the show tell us that they are committed to the reveal process from a very practical standpoint, because when sometimes I remember Ellie Morose told us on the show the one time that she delivered a piece for a client's foyer, and here comes her phone blowing up. This looks too big. It doesn't look right. Blah, blah, blah. And she said, a minute after she was able to deliver the other things that go around it, it all looked amazing. Right. And so, and it's tough, but see, there's one thing to tell a customer, a client, the practical reason why, which is, well, if I only deliver the sofa, you might not think it looks good, as opposed to, well, I can do the trickle effect for you, but it's so much more exciting the other way, right?
It is. And I also, I appeal to them from a financial level as well.
Oh, good.
I'm like, in general, we have a receiver and delivery team that we hire outside of us. They're not part of my payroll, and they can come, and you're going to pay for them to every time they come to your house to drop something off. So you can do that, or you could have them deliver everything at once in a condensed timeline when you pay hourly. And so therefore it usually costs less as well.
Right. Well, that's another very practical and, good point to bring out. But, and the thing is, I'm all day about the practical points. I just love, lay the 2 or 3 practical points on and then, you hit it across the, the fence with the trickle effect. It's like, that's right. Yeah, it just hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want that.
That's true. I mean, design is a luxury, if you're going for it, you might as well do it right.
Well, you know what it is like for those of us that are women and we're used to going to shopping and all this stuff. It's like if you're going to get a special dress or an outfit. So maybe, I remember like going shopping for the mother of the bride dress, Well, if I'm there in the dressing room and my hair is a hot mess in a pony, I have no makeup on and I didn't bring high heels. Really? Is any dress going to look fabulous? I mean, is any dress really going to look fabulous? It's like, and I don't get dressed up to go shopping. I got news for you. I'm not that girl. But when I went for the mother of the bride dress, I put my makeup on. I did my hair because I want to see the whole thing as opposed to, does this just look dumpy because I look dumpy? You know what I'm saying?
It's so true.
Right? And so that's so sort of that trickle effect. Like that one sofa is amazing. That one piece of art is amazing, but it's all together. It's the wow factor.
Absolutely.
Love it, love it, love it. Okay, and so now we're wrapping up the project. Do you accessorize to completion, whether they have purchased accessories to completion? How do you handle that, Sara?
I do some of that in the front end, and then I have accessories that we sort of keep on hand, and we will bring them with us, and we'll ask them, would you like us to put some finishing touches on it that, maybe haven't been thought of, that are big items. So, do you want, candles, and do you want, picture frames that maybe you don't already have, that we could set up for you. So I do bookcases, and, that's part of the delivery too, is the accessorizing, the outside of lamps. It's just the knickknacks that we do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's that last, the installation day. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And those are, if you like it, great. If you don't, I'll just take them back and put them in our inventory. It's not a big deal.
And do you also set up your photography from the beginning and say, hey, once we do the reveal, then the next day or that day, the photographers will be in, or how are you loosey-goose about that? What's your deal?
I usually, it's in our contract that we can shoot it. We try to set that up once we have a good idea of what the installation day is. We set that up with the client and the photographer. Usually we love our photographer, and he's very popular, so we have to make sure we can get on his calendar as well. And we also hire a stylist for flowers. That I love flowers, but I'll be honest, it's not what I'm great at. So we hire a stylist who will do the floral arrangements, and they're sort of a dynamic duo team. And so if we can get them all coordinated in advance, it just makes the process smoother. But we usually allow 2 weeks to pass from installation, because there's always something that,
the drape rod was missing, or the bracket was missing, or the mirror was cracked, right? Like there's little things.
There's always an unknown factor, and I just want to give myself a buffer, and it gives our client a buffer too. They can get in there, they can live with it, and then we come back and shoot it once we've tweaked everything out.
It's funny because I understand both sides of it. I've had designers say, I don't want my clients sleeping and sitting on the sofa and messing everything up, and all of a sudden it's 2 weeks later. But at the same time, there are things, look, things go wrong. You need to get them fixed. And so there's arguments for both sides of it, right?
Correct. But in theory, if you're doing your job correctly, you're planning in for the living factor of your design.
Good point. Good point.
They should be. If they can't hold up for 2 weeks, we got a problem.
Good point. Good point. Oh my goodness, that's so funny. So, and then what about I know what I wanted to ask you was this building in of the stylist and the flowers and the photographer. Where are you putting that in the contract? Is that a line item when you're doing budget and you're saying, hey, and this is part of working with me, just like the design fee is, just like the execution fee is, just like the delivery from the receiver is. These are parts of it. How do you express that in the contract?
I don't know exactly how it's worded, but it does say that you are giving us the rights to photograph our work at an agreed upon date. And so we try to set that date up early,
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
But you're paying for that out of your budget, your marketing
right,
budget.
I don't charge that back to my client
and
at all.
the stylist and the flowers, you're paying to you. That's marketing money, right?
That is marketing, exactly.
Yep. Okay, understood. Yep. Okay, and so so we finish the project. They're insanely happy. We go back 2 weeks later. We take photographs. Are there any additional touches that you're doing at this part of the process, Sara?
Of course, we leave the flowers or any accessories that we think are going to complete or improve what we've already done. We always leave a thank you because it's a big deal for clients to leave their house for a day or sometimes 2 days, depending on the size of the project, in order to allow us to do that. So we know it's an inconvenience and we want to thank them. And with, one of, I think, our clients' favorite things is a lot of times we'll make a book for them that's the before and after book. If it's a renovation, we have all these photography, great pictures from our iPhones that aren't wonderful,
right?
That we will then put, the after once it gets photographed next to, so that they can really see what they, the transformation and appreciate what they bought.
I like that idea. I'm sure that you're not the only one that does it, but I do believe it's the first time I've heard it on the podcast, that to give a before and after book. It's so, you know what it is? Because 85% of what we talk about on the show, when I talk with you guys, I filter it through as a consumer, right? And so my brain just went, right. Every single time I have anybody at my house and they're like, oh, your house looks so pretty, I'm going to whip out this book. This is what this room used to look like. Look at what she did here and what he did there and blah, 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 right? It's total, for what, a $25 Shutterfly book? It's the best marketing you could buy, right?
It is. And it's, they can show anybody who comes in their house and it lets them easily market you, and it's something that they're proud of.
Yes.
Too.
Well, it's funny. And the reason that I went right to that is I have my chairman of the board coaching clients that have come to my house are going to know, yeah, that's what she did at my house when I at her house, because when my husband and I bought this townhouse, we gutted the kitchen. And so when people come in, they're almost always, they'll say, my goodness, your kitchen's so pretty, blah, 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 like this, right? And I'll be like, and the first thing I do is I keep it underneath the dish towels in my silverware drawer. I'm like, oh, wait, let me show you what the kitchen used to look like. And I have the thing stapled together, the 3-page realtor, promo piece, and it shows how stupid the kitchen looked before. And I'm using the word stupid. It literally, Sara, had an island in it that was 24 inches by 28 inches.
Oh Lordy!
It was the
chopping block.
I'm like, what is this? It's the dumbest kitchen on the planet, right? And of course, it's so funny because the other end of the story is, oh, why didn't you put a big island there? Because the middle of my kitchen, anytime I design a kitchen, the middle of the kitchen is empty because that's my dance floor. So every single time I have a gathering, we end up having a dance party. So so I was like, no.
You need the rolling island.
I'm like, this thing has got to go. Get this. It's stupid. I can only fit a turkey on it with nothing else to begin with, right? But the thing is, that is you hear me. I just got super excited about that because I know that is, like you said, the homeowner knows that you as the designer created that space. That's not lost on them. But there's so much pride in sharing the before and after,
Absolutely.
So. That's a home run. I love that idea. Okay, so now we're just going to take this now. We're talking about retention. So this is the retention starts with creating something to retain, creating a relationship that's worth retaining from the standpoint of your client saying, I want to be back and do something else with this firm again. So now going forward, you have said more than a few times, you take it and in your mind, it's no different than if you're going to catch up with a friend. You're not looking at it like, oh, I don't have any projects. It's August and I need projects for December. Maybe I should call so-and-so. Walk us through that for your colleague that is in that space of it feels funny to reach out, even though I might genuinely be curious about how they're doing. So get us through, because that's happening right now. They're thinking,
Right.
yeah, but.
So there's a couple ways to think about it, but in my head, if I'm reversing roles here, if I have worked with someone on a project, which at a minimum is probably a 6-month commitment, I've invested 6 months of time getting to know the designer I hired. And for them to reach out and say, 3 months or 2 weeks afterwards and say, hey, I saw this and I thought of you, or hey, just checking on you to see how you like things. If they don't have that follow-up, fine, it was just business. But when they do, it's like, oh yeah, that 6 months was, fabulous. And, and they start looking at it too as more than just a business relationship. And it sort of breaks down the barrier so that, because now reversing back to the designer, once you get to know the client, all these little things remind you of every client you've ever worked with. And and you don't always get to jump on those, moments in your day, but to follow up on a few of them and just say, oh, I saw so-and-so had a great track meet in the paper, or, you got a birthday coming up. What are y'all doing to celebrate? Hope it's a great one. It doesn't have to be a lengthy thing, but a quick, just thinking of you. I think that's natural.
You know what I love about this, Sarah? Do you know what I love about this? Can I tell you what I love about this?
Sure. Tell me what you love about it.
Okay. What I love about this is when you, like you said, when I reverse roles, okay? Now, again, and I'm going to say, for the 24 of you out there that have coached with me on an intimate basis, you know that I hammer this home all the time. It's like, well, I'm not sure if I should reach out. And I'll say, well, what would you think if they reached out to you? Oh, no, really, what would you think? Like, you met them at a networking event last week, you had a nice conversation, and you both said you should keep in touch. So your email opens up, and there's the person saying, hey, that was so fun, that art exhibit that we went to. It was great meeting you. Do you want to have lunch next week? Are you looking at that going, are you out of your mind? I told you I had a nice time meeting you, but I didn't really expect that you were going to reach out and try and network with me again. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? It's like, come on. And so I love what you just said. It's like, if you just spent 6, 7, 8, 10 months, gosh knows, a year and a half with somebody, talking with them all the time, you're feeling the pang of missing them, but they're feeling it probably too, right? Number one, right? And number one. And then number two is when something does remind you of them and it's absolutely is genuine. You saw that their kid won the track meet. You know that the birthday was when you pop in and say it, instead of hearing in your mind, oh, they're just going to think I'm trying to get more business. Think in your mind, wow, she wasn't pretending to care about me for 18 months that we worked together. She does care about me. We matter to her. Our business mattered to her. That's so powerful, Sarah, that little thing that you said. You said your follow-up makes them know and understand that really was you caring all along the way.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. You see, that's what it is there's a lot of different times when I've said to people, put yourself in the other place. Like, what does it feel like to you? Does that feel like, like crazy or whatever? No. But when you say it like that, Sarah, was I really your friend for 18 months? When I showed up on our weekly meetings or our bi-weekly meetings or our monthly meetings, I said, how was your weekend? Now all of a sudden you're not writing me a check and I don't care how your life is?
Right. I don't think our emotions are always tied to paychecks.
Right? Right? So, and that's that big aha. I love that. So there are ways, and we do have, I recently spoke with Wendy Wallace-Chuck, and she has a mechanism that she does. She does happy birthday to your room. So she'll send out something. Isn't that cute? Like your room is 1 year old, it's 5 years old, it's 10 years old, right? And so,
oh my gosh,
yeah, isn't that fun? I know, I love it too. And so I do think there is a place for the thoughtful, intentional, let me sit down in January, let me figure out when every client's room has a birthday, or let me figure out when every client has a special occasion, and yada, yada, yada. But I also like this extra layer of really what what I'm hearing is, don't resist the natural inclination that you would do for a friend. Do it for your client too, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. We connect. I mean, at the beginning, we connect on Pinterest, which is house driven, but there's also, Instagram or, maybe even Facebook, where you learn things about them that are helpful along the way, but it also feeds and nurtures that friendship and business relationship.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's great advice. I thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun.
All right, right off the bat, let's just say what I have said many times over the years here. One of the best marketing principles to always keep top of mind is that your client base is the best place for you to create new work. Your previous clients already believe in you, they love your style, your ideas, and if you've been doing things right, they should also love the way you run your projects. Not only do we want our past clients coming back to us again and again, we want them to be our cheerleaders out in the world. Sara's message reminds me of how so much of our business's success is directly dependent on the relationships that we have, whether it be our relationships with our trade partners, our employees, or with our previous clients. And to Sara's point, having solid relationships takes effort. You have to show up. It takes reaching out with genuine interest in the person's life, family, and interests. I love when Sara said, as designers, we're always noticing things that remind us of our clients, right? And Sara's saying, act on it. When it feels right to you, that's your cue that it will feel right to them, and it will be appreciated by your clients. This is an episode that you probably should listen to again, because my bet is with another listen, you'll hear a tidbit that you missed the first time. And one of the tips I loved was the gift of the before and after book. What a fabulous idea. I mean, truly. And you know why I really love it? I love it because, on the one hand, it's very personal to each client. It has meaning and will be appreciated for the unique gift to them that only is theirs. And, on the other hand, it is so simple and easy for you to incorporate and duplicate project after project. That's the hard part of a unique gift, usually, right? You have to brainstorm to come up with the personal gift, but this can easily become part of your workflow process. Task a team member with taking before pics all along the way of the project. Each week, they put them in the Dropbox, wherever it is. A week before reveal day, you or someone else goes in and selects the before pics that you will include. And then as soon as the pro shots are done, boom, it's all off to be made into a book that, by the way, you have already created and templated, right? So that all of the things that are all the beautiful things that are your logo and their name and all of that stuff, that's templated. And then you just each time put the personal info in, and there you go, a lovely personal gift. And the thing is, it truly is a gift that keeps giving, because it will be shared with friends and family, spreading the word, hashtag, quote unquote, marketing your business each and every time. This is a home run in my book. I love it all the way around. All right. Now, let's send a shout out to Article. Article is another company known for the client experience and customer service. You know why they're so good at this? Well, it's because their trade division is run by Jillian Cross. Jillian is an interior design professional. She and her team know what you need to get your projects done on time, on budget, and they are there to support you with that. So sign up for your trade account today at welldesigned.article.com/LuAnn. And I hope you will take some of Sara's ideas and incorporate them into your design business. The big message: pay attention to people. Learn the things about them that matter and act on the ways that you can show that you appreciate them. Thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate you, and I am so grateful that you show up. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.